Now we're alive. So, welcome everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying their day. Thank you for coming on the podcast today, Positive Pen. We have a special guest here. His name is Michael Broken Toys,
I
and my
love that.
Hi
I
guys.
love that, Michael.
and
Thank
my
you.
sidekick Kaz. How you doing?
Woohoo! I'm wunderbar. Dankeschön.
So, what everybody doesn't know, we are trying a new platform, and it's going live in a couple places. And I hope this works, and it's not a waste of time. So, if you're seeing this for the first time on those platforms, welcome.
What
And
are they, John? Instagram?
so there's Instagram, YouTube, X,
Woohoo.
and Rumble.
X.
Awesome.
I still call it Twitter. I know it's
It's
still
Twitter.
X, but
Twitter.
X Twitter. X Twitter.
So I hope it's all working. I haven't checked on here.
Rumble. Rumble. In the jungle.
In this- Oh, we are live on Substack. We are live on.
Hey, everybody else. The only thing is that we can't see any comments or anything, I suppose, or who joins us.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the only bugaboo.
Yeah. Well, you threw this at me what at 1:00, 1:30, and I had to learn all this in 2 hours.
I threw it at you.
You know, there's a
Wah,
chat
wah,
button.
wah, wah.
There's a
Oh, wait.
chat button in the right there, and if you hit that, I think we'll be able to see.
In the right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I don't
we'll
want to end up hitting leave. No.
See the chat. I don't know.
I don't
Oh,
know.
Looks
wait,
like-
wait. Yes. Private chat, it says.
But then it says
Huh.
messages from the audience. Well, yeah. just wait.
Messages. Oh, messages from audience will display here. Yay.
Awesome.
It's in the middle right under our pictures.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Of course. Yeah.
So, with all that technical stuff out of the way,
Take 2.
we're gonna. So, welcome, Michael. We appreciate it. Now, Michael, I ran into him. Was it about a month ago?
I think so. Yeah. It sounds
Yeah.
about right.
And so we were talking about divorce and all the fun stuff that we're talking about. But one of the things, he had a very different perspective on how this happens. He was talking about from a childhood experience. And one of the challenges that I have is my children themselves are, gone through the divorce, and it was very toxic. It wasn't amicable at all. And it was, I can tell you this, every week for the last 2-3 years, either a police officer showed up at my door,
Aye.
child services at the door. Either I was in court or dealing with an attorney. Plus I was working. Plus I was caring. I mean, it was a lot. And then, and by the way, there was therapy and psychology, all the whole gamut of things. And I just keep thinking about, like, how does that hurt my children?
Mm.
And that's what I keep thinking about that. And I just don't know. I see the effects now. I have one son who we're working together, a good kid. We're making it work the way it looks like. And then my daughter, I don't talk to. I mean, I text as much as I can, just in hopes to grab her attention one day. And I do send her my books and things like that as a gift. And then my middle child basically left this area that we live in and moved to Vancouver, Canada, which I'm from. And the funny thing is, we haven't talked. There was a big blowout, and I had to set some boundaries because of his crazy behavior. I'm going to call it that. It was very out of norm from a child. And when we did communicate, it was always hostile and aggressive. And I think that was a lot of it. But when I look back, the whole thing with my children and with my son, that's really seeking an identity of who he is or what he wants to be. And one of the things is that I've noted, what I thought about it was like he was really chasing me or chasing my ghost or learning about who I am. So you went to Vancouver to do that. And that is something you can't take. I mean, you could, as a mother, or a parent, I would say, you do parental alienation all you want, but eventually the child's going to start seeking their own answers, and truth always comes out. And so when he's with my family back there, they're talking about me, they're talking about as a child, how I was raised, all that kind of stuff. So when Michael presented his perspective, that's where I think a lot of these divorces don't think, and they don't really think about the kids themselves. And I'll be honest, was I always there? No. Was I focused on them? No. I mean, it's not as much as I should. Don't get me wrong, they weren't treated anyways, and all those allegations were unfounded. So, and but the cool thing is that they're raised, and I'm trying to rebuild those relationships as much as I can. So, Michael, I kind of don't want to take your storm here, but that's really what I really thought. That's where I want to come from, is like, how is a child, what are the effects, especially for you? I mean, you're a firsthand account. Like, what I'm talking about, is that crazy talk, or is that just kind of
No, it's not crazy talk at all. And I have to say, John, I caught you one day. You had written a piece exactly what you're talking about how you were fighting with your ex and all this stuff going on. And I really felt for you, because I'm lucky in a sense that my ex-wife and I are very amicable, and we are kind of focused on bringing our kids up well. We have 2 boys, 14 and 17. It's not easy, but we're doing the best we can, and we tend to agree on things when it comes to raising the boys. But I also came from a family of, my parents got divorced when I was 10 years old. And that I think today I'm really starting, as I read and learn about all this stuff, how that divorce has kind of, I think, shaped my life, honestly, in a lot of ways. And a lot of that relates to my parents being not amicable, like fighting and talking ill of each other. And I think my father lived in our town for 2 years, and then he moved back to the East Coast. We're all from the East Coast, but moved to the West Coast when I was really young. So my father moved back to the East Coast, and we didn't see him very much. So we had the sole sort of influence of my mother and her perspective, and it wasn't positive about my father. And I ended up kind of hating my father after a while because of that. And we would got a little older. I have 2 brothers. We would spend some summers out there with my father, but the first summer we were out there, he had a girlfriend who didn't like kids, so he sent us to relatives in New York. It was like, and I can relate these stories today as a 50-plus-year-old man, but as a kid, it was just like, oh, this is what's happening. This is normal. I don't know what else there is. But as you get older and you learn and you kind of realize what's going on, it's not normal. It might be stuff that's happening, but this is having a profound effect on who I am, who my brothers are, and clearly, everybody who has to go through this kind of stuff. So it's a complicated and difficult story, but something I felt I need to kind of unravel best I can. And John, we've kind of written back and forth about different, quote, modalities, if you will, like the therapy and the journaling and the reading and all that kind of stuff has been really vital for me to get healthier. I want to say I feel mentally healthier, but I feel like I still have a long way to go, because we deal with all that sort of, it's generational. It goes back many generations, and then it's childhood trauma where you're experiencing things as a child. And they talk about, in the stuff I read about, you develop all these survival strategies, and then realistically you outgrow those survival strategies as you get older, but you continue to rely on them, and that causes all kinds of relationships, whether it's friends, lovers, family, all that kind of stuff. So it's really, there's a lot there and a lot to investigate, and I will continue to try.
I mean, that's like one of the things I keep thinking about is like, how do they carry to the next relationships? I think about like, are they going to see the red flags and it's someone that is codependent on them? Are they going to be the fireman? Are they going to be the police officer trying to save the situation? or
Yeah.
they're going to be the doctor try to fix things.
Right.
I don't want those psychological, role play in their heads, but obviously that is something that is going to come about from a traumatic situation. You either lean in those categories and you don't really find yourself until you go through a lot of, I think, a lot of pain to get there.
Yeah.
And that's, so I'm thinking from that perspective, the children, like I'm thinking like, what's that? And when I hear your story, I mean, I can see my ex and I don't mean to laugh about it. It's just, I just don't know how to react to it anymore. Cause I look back and I go, man, that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
That was horrible. That was tough. That's not, that wasn't really fair.
Yeah. And I think you recognize that now. So that is a huge step in and of itself.
Yeah.
And in that point, you can try and move forward.
Yeah.
And your kids are resilient. I know they say that, but just being there for them, being vulnerable, understanding that we're not perfect as parents, we're not perfect as kids.
Yeah.
All that stuff is important.
So, I mean, when you were a child, when you saw all that was happening, what was your, like, did you started to build sides, or did you kind of like looked at it as like, I'm trying to love both of them, or was one dominating the situation? Like, what was the dynamics in that whole, like, were you being like pulled, or, I mean, how did that,
So I lived with my mom. The three of us lived with my mom, and she was certainly the main influence. I don't know if she was intentionally trying to pull us in her direction, but that's certainly how we navigated naturally, I think. And then going out to see my dad and that girlfriend situation, but then he actually married a wonderful woman, and we learned about how things could be different, which was awesome. But I have to say, I went through college and got out of college, and my father came out to visit for my graduation. And there are pictures of us, the four of us, my two brothers and myself and my father standing there. And I can just see the look on my face, like, just the anger, just seething anger.
Wow.
There was just I felt like there was so much I missed, and I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't have the tools to understand what was going on. And he passed away like 2 months later. So it was like this whole, oh my God, what the hell?
Wow.
I was like 25 years old, and he was dead. So it's not easy.
When he passed, what was the thought process? Was there a loss? Was there like good, or
it was a profound loss? Honestly, it was a profound loss of not really knowing him that well, and having all this anger inside of myself. Just like I felt cheated in a lot of ways. And as I've gotten older, I wish I could talk to him now about fatherhood, because I didn't understand what fatherhood was at that point. So all my anger was kind of built up around not understanding what his job was. And then I feel more empathy today. I wish I could talk to him. But I think there's another topic here of role models, and a lot of us don't have relationship role models. Our parents divorced, our father's gone. How am I supposed to be a father? He's been gone since I was 12, basically. And it's hard, and you do the best you can, and try to keep moving.
So with that, did you ever go back and obviously he married someone else? Did you kind of do a rediscovery of him and kind of like figure out how he was as a person? Was there any depth of figure things out about him?
No, I don't think so. I got to know my stepmom really well, and she was an amazing woman, and she was kind of a buffer, I think, and a calming influence between my brothers and my father. And there was alcohol involved, and all that kind of stuff, and that's just a whole nother topic of insanity.
Was that the reason of the divorce? It was the alcohol?
I'm sure it was part of it. Yeah, I'm sure it was part of it. My mom doesn't talk about it much, and that their generation is kind of a little quieter. I mean, ours
closed-mouthed about it. Yeah.
Which I totally get, but it doesn't help. It doesn't help to be closed-mouthed, But it's not talk either. So
So now, and your brothers, are they kind of like, well, like adjusted to everything now, or are they just kind of like, are they still kind of like have their moments or
They have
trigger
their
moments?
We all have our moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We're all like, my youngest brother's divorced. My
Mm.
middle brother was going to get married, didn't really work out. We're all single. Well, actually, my youngest brother has a girlfriend, so
Mm.
it's
Well, you guys live nearby each other, so
we
you guys
do.
are supportive. Okay, that's
Yeah,
cool.
definitely, which is good. And my mom lives real close as well, so that's a big plus. And I've gotten
That's
to,
good.
yeah.
So with that said, like, did you like, so is there still like trigger moments with you right now, or are you kind of like resolve those? Or you kind of just moving on? Like, because I know I have some trigger moments that I
Yeah,
have to figure out myself. So
a lot, especially because my wife told me she was divorcing me. I think it was January 24th, 2024. So it's almost 2 years, but
Oh,
it's
Yeah.
still very, very,
new.
yeah, exactly. Very new. And we live in the same town. We have separate domiciles, obviously, but, and we work from a business perspective really well together, like the kids stuff and finances and all that. But I make it a point to try not to see her because those are all triggers. That's a bunch of triggers.
yeah.
And not really talk about anything in depth other than the business stuff. So yeah.
Do you see a lot in the relationship with your parents in your marriage, or was it just two different things completely?
I've thought about this before, and to be honest, I don't ever almost remember seeing my parents in the same room, which
Ah,
sounds really weird, but it's like I don't. My father moved out when I was 10,
okay.
and we lived in the same house, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. I think it had been bad for a while. You don't just wake up and everything's good and then decide to divorce. So who knows?
Yeah,
So, oh, go ahead.
sorry. No, I was going to say, I've always looked at these circumstances with friends who have divorced parents. I had a set of parents that stayed together until the end and had no business doing that.
Yeah,
So you've got the two,
right.
uh, you've got those juxtapositions of,
Mhm.
your experience with divorced parents. And then I have my experience with parents that but we're so codependent on each other. And my mom didn't drive, and she was financially dependent on my dad. So they just stuck it out. And after my dad passed, she admitted to me that because of the time that she got married and all of her friends were getting married and all of her friends were having children and they liked each other a lot, and it seemed to be love in the beginning. I found after the fact cards and letters, but we were much younger. But as time went on, like, I don't think she likes him, and I don't think she loves him. She may like him.
Right.
And yeah, she admitted to me that it was friends and they were doing she felt that's what she needed to do. And she had to get out of a house of with a very dysfunctional,
Right.
mentally unhealthy home. And my dad was handsome and just coming out of the Air Force
Mhm.
and la 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 la. But it was kind of a she only told this to me she died in January of 2022, and I think she told this to me in middle of 2021. I just point
Wow.
blank asked her the question.
Right.
And I was trying to rectify in my mind being the child of parents that one of them did not love the other but just
Mhm.
stayed. So was I living a lie?
Right.
you
Right. My mom
know
kind of has a similar story. She said she was 19. She needed to get out of the house, a dysfunctional house. My father had just come back from Korea, and she kind of got
oh,
married and young, and I totally, totally relate from my parents. So yeah, and
interesting.
it all has an effect on us, especially as kids. It's yeah, it's pretty profound. So now we're trying to unravel and literally like generations of trauma, just trying to figure out, oh, okay, well, let's do this life we're supposed to do and try and figure out this trauma stuff and hopefully we can get better. But Yeah.
So in your current situation where you're now going into this divorce, like what was the, like, I don't want to go into details, but was
Mhm.
there like was there some like
Defining
reflection,
moment.
defining moment or some reflection on what's going on? And with your experience, did you kind of like went, you know what, I really need to be careful with my kids, or was that ever in top of mind of that situation?
Were they super aware
Yeah,
that this was happening? Your
that's
kids,
My
were they aware
Yeah,
that?
the kids had a sense that stuff was going on, and it wasn't. There was no infidelity. There was none of that stuff. It was just like, this
Lucky
isn't
you.
working. You know, this just isn't working. And we announced it one day, and they were like, "Oh, it was sad and all that for them," but they were like, "Oh, kind of figured." And then we kind of just.
Oh, wow.
It was almost like a in some ways a business transaction. Like, she told me, and then. Um, we rented another apartment in the same town and did the nesting thing. Do you know what nesting is? So
Yes,
I would live in the
yes.
apartment, yeah, and then Therese would live there, and then we'd switch, and the kids would stay in the same house. We did that until we sold our house and moved to our new area. But
It's
yeah,
such a
was
healthy
that
way
it?
to do it with the
Was that
kids.
intentional? Was that something you like? Who initiated that? That's a actually a pretty good idea.
yeah, Therese
Very,
initiated, or my
very
ex-wife.
mature.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. But
That's
Huh.
awesome.
yeah, I didn't feel mature at the time, but I was
Yeah. Do
I
we
was a
ever?
total freaking mess. But yeah, and it worked. It helped with the kids, and they got used to sort of um living of us living separately. And then when we moved to this new town, now they are going back and forth. And that's
Oh,
50-50. They live with her and then come to my house, and we're working that
how
part out.
old are they? How old are they?
14 and 17. Two
Oh,
boys.
so they're still young. Young.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the things I wish we like when I look back on the divorce. I think some of the contention, some of the fighting was obviously over financial. That was number
Mhm.
one. And
Oh,
then number
yeah. Yeah.
two, it was the custody. And but we had investment properties and things like that.
Mhm.
So it
Mm,
obviously complicated a lot more than just, we have a home. So even though we try to be amicable, try to parcel things out. But when someone doesn't agree to them and doesn't basically adhere to what the court order says or what verbally you're talking about,
Mhm.
then there's no trust. You can't trust that
Right.
person. There's nothing you can do about it. So then everything becomes a battleground. Every conversation, every like I remember the exchanges, just the children. We had to go to a neutral location, public, and it had to be like it was just
yes.
crazy.
Been
And then
there. Ugh.
Stress.
and then I would drive up to the parking lot, and I would never go in, even though it was the family home that I bought.
Mhm.
I would never step on the grounds. I would never get in there, even though if I was asked. But what major issue what was happening in our relationship, or which was causing a lot of problems, called the triangle communication. I don't know if you heard of that term.
Huh.
But what happens is there's always a villain, there's always a hero, and there's always a victim. And when two
Mm,
parents parenting do not get along for whatever reason, the kids will learn behavior, and they become manipulators and become this narcissistic attitude. Like I can sway the kid, I can sway my power based on who I influence. Well, I
Right.
was always a disciplinary person. I was always saying no, no, you can't. Like not no in the sense of no, you can't do it. No, you shouldn't be doing it because that's going to hurt you. Or no, we're not going to buy candy. Or no, we're not going to go to Disneyland, and spend $50,000. No, that's not going to happen, right? And
yeah.
I would, so I would be that parent. She would be the friend. So anything
Mhm.
that the kids wanted could.
The
So
Disney, they call it the Disney parent.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Disney parent. So anything
Yeah.
happened, she got it. Now, don't get me wrong. I still took the kids on vacation. I took, family vacation, things that I thought was meaningful and fun. And she would buy gadgets and things like that. You know, my son had the phone at 8 years old, which I didn't want the kid to have a phone at 8 years old. But then he had the internet and was able to go anywhere in the world.
Yeah,
he was
Wow.
playing Fortnite. Is it Fortnite or whatever?
Yes, Fortnite.
Or, no, it was a military thing. I can't remember which one it was.
Not Halo.
Halo. He was
Yeah.
playing Halo at 5 years old.
Yikes.
Yeah. So, and anytime I had an argument about it, it would never, every time I brought it up, I say, that's not what we should do. I was next, you know, because the kid felt it. The kid already tasted it, learned by it, wanted more of it because he was addicted.
Right.
And then all my other children were following that process as well. So anytime I said no to that, obviously it was combative. So they would go to their mom because they know they can get away with what they wanted and got away with what they wanted. If they came to me, they knew I was more structured. They know I was a little more rigid, I would say, a little more, let's go play outside. Let's go do this. Let's do that. And they can go to her house and just do what they want. And that's what the battlegrounds were like all the time. So every other week they would come in hot, all ramped up on sugar and all that kind of stuff. And I would have to sit there and kind of like, okay, kids, like, let's not be so, you know, kind of structure things out. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole story about that the relationship part of it. And what I learned through it all was that if you're in that situation, and when I was reading a book, I would say, and I can't remember the name of the book, but I was reading it. It was like in chapter 3, Buried. If you're in this situation where where the one person's willing to win at all cost, and I mean at all costs, not just to win just for the sake of argument, but to win with casualties, no matter what. You're in a lose-win situation all the time. The best thing you can do if you're in this situation, which I was to move away an hour away, give her the kids, and wish them well because they need some stability, whatever that looks like, right or wrong. And don't get me wrong, I've been to court maybe 15 times. And yeah, I'll tell you right now, I was over $150,000 in debt.
That's brutal.
I finally paid off a good chunk of it, and I'm down to 15,000. But that's where it was. And I could have gone bankrupt a couple times, but I didn't. But I'm just telling you, that's the significance of it. And so I made that hard decision. And luckily, we went to a family psychologist or psychiatrist, and they did an evaluation. And their basic comment was, I don't know how these kids are still not defiant and rebelling and all this stuff. Like, they still don't know how that happened. But they said the children would rather live in her house because that was the family house, obviously, and I lived in an apartment. And obviously, I was the disciplinary, and she was the whatever.
Yeah.
And so I made that hard decision. I said, for the best of the kids and best for my health, because I was not doing well mentally, financially, physically. I was in bad shape. I had to make that tough decision and let go. And some days I wish I didn't, but I look back and I go, that was the only option I had.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes you have to take care of yourself, to be better for them.
Yeah.
So I have a question, Michael, Mr. BT. Mr. BT, what brought you to Substack to discuss this and to share your situation honestly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. When the divorce started, it took a huge toll on who I was. And as a one way of dealing with it, I started writing in a journal. And every day I would wake up usually pretty early in the morning and write. And it helped me process things and like learn about what was going on. It helped. And then I would read, and then I would write again. And also back in like 2009, I graduated with a MFA in creative writing, actually.
Oh, yay.
I've been working in the food industry forever, owned a couple of businesses, but I've really wanted to go back into writing. So those kinds of things came together, and Substack seemed like a good place to just put stuff up and see what happens. It's edited, but not to the degree you'd like, generally speaking. But it's also, meeting folks like you guys and understanding that it can feel so alone. Like you're sitting in your apartment, maybe you're watching TV and your kids aren't in your house, and it's just like it's a lonely place. And and also from the perspective of being a man and like actually expressing and talking about all this stuff. I don't think there's a lot of that out there, especially these days. It's a little aggressive in some ways, what's going on. And we're gonna say
more
something.
People are willing to air the vitriol instead of the story, the evolution, and what they're learning, how they feel it's affected their children, how their children are doing. And instead, there's so much finger pointing and just a kind of hatefulness, and which was going to, because John has spoken about this really brilliantly, about what he's learned, and has written about this too, what he's learned, how he felt, what his role was, where he felt responsibility, where he did not feel responsibility. And
that was all the time. No, just kidding.
and no, but I mean, you have said on several occasions, look, I wasn't completely uninvolved and without any responsibility in this at all. And to be willing to admit, because a lot of people can't do that, because they can't either look themselves in the face, or they're so hurt and so damaged because they've been left, or whatever the situation is, that all they want to do is to strike out at the other person. And a lot of times these children are collateral damage
all the time.
And I know with my son, he was 10, and he was completely caught by surprise. I mean, absolutely caught by surprise. And that's huge in itself. I thought he saw inklings, but you're 10 and you're just living your life and going to school and being with other people and other relatives and all of that. So, yeah, I feel that how you are representing this whole nesting thing, which is actually what my husband did with his former wife and his children, until they were, of age, was he got the apartment, and but I'm surrounded, I'm bookended by two lovely men, and my experience as a woman has been profoundly different with children. Now I have one more husband, and he is there were no children involved, so it made it a little bit easier. I mean, it wasn't great, trust me, it wasn't great. But now we're friends, we're good friends, and I just love him to pieces. And I his children and his wife and everything. But yeah, the toll it can take on children. How do you feel? And I want to ask this of you, John, too. How do you feel you have evolved what have you taken away from it that has been any positive aspect? How have you grown?
Mhm.
Because both of you are talking about divorce. And I think that men and women will be able to relate to your stories just
Mhm.
because I'm a woman and I ended up with primary custody of my son. It was shared, but I was the custodial parent.
Mhm.
But he moved really far away. So it was very difficult for us to do that whole nesting or sharing thing, unfortunately.
Right.
But anyway, yes. I'll ask you first, Michael, since you're our guest. What do you feel you've taken away from this? What do you feel have you grown or evolved from this?
Yeah, I think I've grown immensely. I had to understand that it's a story of two people, and they both have their perspectives, and we've created a life. And I had to, before we got divorced, I felt I had, in a sense, lost myself. I don't know. I could feel
Mm,
the divorce coming in a lot of ways, but I didn't want to acknowledge it, and I clammed up. But this is the survival strategy stuff I was talking about earlier. The stuff I developed as a kid, the early trauma. I would shell up and I wouldn't communicate, and I would just try and almost be invisible. There's an idea of
mm,
making yourself smaller so you don't cause problems, and that sort of thing
mm,
followed me into adulthood. And as my marriage started to unravel, I could feel that unraveling, and I went smaller and smaller and smaller. I just tried to almost be a ghost in the house. And then
mm.
the the floor fell out, and she told me she's divorcing me, and I had, I'm not a ghost. I have to face this. And doing the journaling and the reading and the therapy and the even just talking honestly with my brother. My brother's been amazing in this, just calling him all the time. And
Yay.
I would never do that in the past. And I think I've evolved in so many ways, honestly, but I still have a ways to go. You know what I mean? I think it's a ever going process. But,
Right.
yeah, it's been interesting for sure. But back to your sort of point of like, we should be talking about this stuff because we don't want these kinds of behaviors to continue. We don't want. I don't want other people to go through what I've gone through. I don't want people what John went through, or you, Kaz, or what you've gone through. It's just the desire to be better is part of it. Um, you know, So yeah, I guess it's kind of a roundabout answer, but because there's so
No,
many things involved. But yeah,
that's growth. I mean, it really, really is growth. Yeah, John, would you share, please?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say this, and I'm going to be blunt. Having these conversations are not easy.
Mm,
This is probably one of the challenge things that I would say most men
right.
who are in divorce, who are in a toxic situation, and obviously Mike was in a better position than I was, but you're always deemed the man.
Yeah.
You're always deemed the person that's at fault, no matter what happened, and no matter what may transpire during the divorce or through the custody. No matter, you're always the blame. And when you look at it from that perspective, and maybe, and I'm not saying women don't experience it as well. I'm sure they do. I'm going from a male perspective.
Yeah.
This is what I've experienced. This is what I see, and this is what I hear from other men or other fathers who go through this because they're told to suck it
Mm,
up, just deal
hmm.
with it, and we've been told that
All your
our
life.
entire life, right? And I played semi-pro baseball. That was the same thing. And there's like, hey, get in there and just deal with it. Go do what you gotta do, more or less. Go to work. That was the attitude.
You get hit in the
So
head, shake it off.
Shake it off.
yeah,
Exactly.
Shake it
Yeah.
shake it
off.
off. And so when the divorce happened, it it was not really a surprise, but it was kind of like done in a very poorish way. And she initiated it. So when all that process happened, and then I was in and I'm sorry not to, I'm answering this in a longer way,
Okay.
so you kind of have a little bit of a perspective of where I'm coming from. So I had this divorce, custody, and then I was in a long-term relationship, for 7 years. And one of the biggest mistakes I did was I didn't jump into another relationship right away, but I met someone who I should have been a lot more alerted on their quirks, because I immediately went into codependent. I
I've
wanted
heard
someone to
that
take care of me.
before from other
I
men.
wanted someone
Yep.
to take care of me.
Wow.
And this did not really hit. Like, then that ended, and that ended bad too. I'm not proud of it, but it ended. And just to keep things, she met somebody else and walked away after what we went through. And it wasn't until COVID was probably the toughest time that I've ever faced, because I was in an apartment by myself. The kids are now living there full time. I was sick. I was alone. I had nobody take care of me. Zero. I mean, I sat there in that one room apartment, like freaking out. But when you're in that situation, especially, and I think this is all human. And there was I forgot his name, Mark, not Mark Freeman, but there was a guy that was in Israel, and he was had captive by hostages and terrorists, and he lived alone for like almost 7 years in a small little cell. And what happens in that situation, and that's sort of like what happened to me. Like, I got there, and I started to not like me.
Ooh, that's big. That's big to even.
And there were some moments in that year that I wrote a little bit about that upcoming, because some upcoming stuff. And I had I wouldn't say mental issues, but I was depressed. I
Yeah, you
had
were having mental
anxiety.
health challenges.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
I
Yeah.
was like all over the place. But during that course of time where I was self-isolated, something triggered. And I started finding peace. And in my stories, for before my children's separation, was I was seeking peace. And when you put that out in the out there,
ethers. Yep. Yep.
God, they don't give you peace. They give you hell.
Oh, wow.
Because they want you to teach you what peace would look like. And then it teaches you not to do that. So out of that, what I've learned was that peace was my haven. And when I talk to my children, it's about peace. If I see them trigger, I try to reduce it. I try to pull back, figure that out. I look at relationships. Are they bringing me peace?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
When I go on Substack, are they
Right,
bringing me
right.
peace? Like, today, somebody was being a troll, and I chuckled about it, because they were freaking out over an artwork. It was like AI generated.
That's
like,
so silly.
like
That it was. Yeah, we
it had
talked
nothing to
about this,
do
and
with yeah.
it was silly. But isn't that overall? Isn't that what we want in our lives, or what
Yeah.
we are moving towards? We want peace in our home, peace in our finances, peace in our relationships, peace in our work, peace in our health. You name it, peace. And peace is hard to find when you feel like your world is completely falling apart. But it
Well,
has
when
to,
that
but
happened,
it does fall
but
back
when that
together,
happened,
but it falls back together differently than you may
Right.
imagine, or differently than you expect.
but when that happened for me, that was probably the second. No, I would say that was that everything fell apart. That was a year that everything fell apart, and I started with nothing. So
Been there.
when you have
Been
nothing,
there.
when you have nothing else to lose, you're really just working on yourself then, right? And I was grateful. I had a few things going on, and then that's where writing started for me. Like, I was not a writer, never was. I started Substack, and it was, if you look at my really early stuff, it's like, whoa, my God, okay.
Archive it.
But that's
Archive
right.
it.
Well, no, I don't archive stuff, but I look at it as like, that's growth. So part of my growth, I would say, I became a painter. I started
Wow.
painting. I started playing the piano. I started doing this. I started doing that. Um, but the thing is that when, and I guess this is, I know it's a long answer to the question you asked, but I think it needs to be explained in a way that so a female or a child understands a father's life is not so easy. It's not from A to Z. There's so many zigzags that man has to take to accomplish a day-to-day task, because they're not just caretakers, they're also doers, they're also workers, they're also providing, they're also trying to make sure the future is protected. They got so many things going on in their head that is probably, actually, I saw this quote, is that a female's value goes down after 30 because unless they're career oriented, a men's value goes up after 30 because they've started to get income and starting to get some wealth going, starting to show value in their lives. I don't know how true that is, but that's sort of the situation. So I think we all, I mean, peace is great, but we also want joy. We also want love. And the three, if you look at the three things that happen every year, it only happens in one time of the season. And that's Christmas, or the holiday season for most of us.
Yeah. Well,
And that,
well, for Canadians, Canadian Thanksgiving is next week,
Right.
but for the States, it's it's in the end of November.
Yeah.
The end of November. So
but my question is, why doesn't it happen every day? Why can't
that's
we
what
do that
I've
every day?
always said. Only during, like, I follow Buddhism, and luckily for me, everything about Buddhism, his enlightenment and his birth is all reflected in the month of December. So we do have a tree, and the lights represent enlightenment. But I say that every Christmas holiday, look at how loving and generous and kind people are being, but is it real? Does it
Yeah.
feel necessary? Do they feel driven to spend all this money and to buy all these gifts? And yes, sometimes it is being pointed out to me, sometimes that's the only time families have a chance to get together, Thanksgiving or Christmas, maybe birthdays, weddings. So they make a really, really big deal out of it. But I think gratitude and love must be a daily thing. And now more than ever, we need people to be in gratitude and love as much as possible. That being said, everything is light and dark, yin and yang, up and down, dark and light. And people only want to live in the good and positive, and that's not possible because we grow. John and Michael, I am sure both of you have, I know you have, John, and I'm sure you have, Michael, grown and evolved and had gotten so much more awareness because of the dark you've had to go through, the hot and cold, the sour and the sweet. I know for me, some of my hardest, most painful lessons have been my best lessons, whether it's with past relationships or whatever. And I don't feel like I'm a phoenix who rose from the ashes. I feel like I walked through them. I walked through the ashes. And yeah, John, I love that point that you're making, that why is it only during during Christmas we're all so loving and kind to each other? Because yeah, I'm going to get that diamond this Christmas. So let me be extra special. But
And trying to find your joy and peace in that diamond that doesn't exist. You get that little punch of electricity. This is great, but then
it's that quick oxytocin.
Yeah, it just dies.
It's that serotonin oxytocin dump. And they're never, that's why some people, they just buy more and more and more and more and more cars, more clothes, more shoes, more whatever. And just because, until we can dig deep, which both of you, obviously, we, the three of us, are deep diggers, I can tell already, that we can't, the newest espresso maker for me isn't going to heal stuff I'm working on. And I'm a healing arts master, and I work on stuff every single day because I will, 2 steps forward and 1 step back does keep me 1 step ahead, but I still would rather not make that step back, but it happens anyway.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
So Gary on Substack said, I work all year long to be able not to have to think about anything but family, love, joy, peace, and all the things in December and January.
Oh, that's
And
nice,
then
Gary.
Shadow said, my 2 kids and I had gone through phases and intense therapy after I ended a 16-year marriage
Whoa.
to a very emotional, abusive
Mm.
father. I see growth we have achieved when we can talk openly without defense, acknowledgement each other's perspectives as fair, and enjoy our time together without without
That's
barriers. Sorry,
Shadow.
that's
Thank you.
Shadow.
That's
Yep.
that's a beautiful, beautiful
They're
share. Thank you so
they're
much.
learning the skills because we're not born with this stuff. You don't automatically know how to communicate and connect with each other. Then going through that therapy, I think Shadow's doing a wonderful thing for her family. It's great.
Yeah, one of the things about therapy, though, what I've learned, you really need to get a good
Yes.
therapist.
Oh my gosh, I just heard a horror story a couple of months ago about a therapist, client, patient of a therapist. The therapist made her codependent.
Mm,
So,
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
help them.
uh-oh,
They're,
did I lose? Oops. Oh, the therapist
yeah, the
actually made the patient codependent on her, and
Wow.
then did all sorts of
yeah,
mind games with her. You really do have to be careful. And I've tried therapy several times. There was one therapist in Vancouver, family therapist. I loved her so much. I will never forget her. I will never forget her name. I've told her on many occasions. But I'm doing hypnotherapy now and hypno meditation to help me can continue to clear out, because I think we all need to continue no matter how far we think we've gone. I know psychiatrists who have psychiatrists, psychologists and coaches who have psychologists and coaches. And I love hypnotherapy,
Mm.
hypno meditation. And
yeah.
I discover something new about myself all the time. Sometimes I'm left in tears and sometimes I'm left really uproariously laughing. But yeah, John, it's crucial to find someone. And if you have to go to 3 or 4 people, the problem is now that there are so many people needing therapy that they are being turned down left and right. Therapists and
Huh.
psychiatrists and psychologists are not taking clients or patients because they are maxed out.
Wow.
And so,
Well, mental health is an issue in this country
mhm,
more than just
mhm.
day-to-day stuff. We can go into everything there is, but one of the things, one of the things I want to ask Michael, did you and your kids go therapy, or did you ever go therapy as a kid, as a child,
Yeah.
or what was your
So my
experience?
parents got divorced. My mom.
And how did it help you, or not?
What's that?
Sorry,
Say it again.
I mean, and just to follow up one more.
Yeah.
Like, did it help you, or did it kind of like scar you for
Oh
life?
no.
No.
Oh, I hope it's not the latter.
Yeah, when we were kids, after the divorce, my mom tried taking us. We just didn't really take to it. We were kids, didn't really understand what was going on. It just didn't feel real. Tried. There's a organization. It's like Al-Anon. It's for a family of alcoholics. Kind of did something like that. It didn't really work. And then when I got into my 20s, I tried it a few times, and it helped. And then throughout my life, I've tried it a number of times, and honestly, the crisis of this divorce has just kind of opened me up in a way, if you will, because I just couldn't. I made the decision that I couldn't live the way I was living anymore. I
Right.
didn't.
Yeah, that's the point. Exactly.
Yeah, it is, and I really, really cracked open, and I looked, and I've tried. There are different forms of therapy. There's CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's somatic therapy. There's different
Mhm.
sort of ideas, and I found a somatic experiencing
Somatic is
therapist.
wonderful.
And yeah, she's been amazing because it's more about the mind and the body, bring them together, and how trauma sits in your body. And if you don't sort of work that out, it's just going to stay with you forever. I mean, there's a lot of good books and stuff on this stuff. But yeah, and back to the divorce thing, the crisis and cracking me open, I just decided, you know what, I can't do this anymore, because I could see the patterns from relationships with other women in my past. I didn't marry them, but I could see how it ended. They ended essentially the same way. And I was like, I can't,
I've heard that before, and I've experienced that myself too, is that you just, you're afraid to be alone.
Yeah.
And then you have a rebound, or you get into a relationship with someone who is similar to your previous relationship because that's what you're used to. You don't know any different. And that's I spent over 5 years, just me and my son, without no dating, nothing. Just
Right.
I thought I was done completely. And then I met the man I've been with for 13 years. So, and both of us have had to adjust because both, you come into a relationship outside of other relationships with your own baggage. And what has gotten me through is, I always, and John, you and I've discussed this before. I do my best to come from the I feel I'm experiencing, this doesn't feel good to me. This hit me in a certain way. I need, I want, instead of you don't, you didn't, you always, you never, you can't, having that kind of blame game. It's how I'm feeling. And I think if you are able to have the lines of communication open, which I haven't always had that luxury in other relationships for whatever reason, because I'm incredibly effusive, which my husband will attest to, so will John, is the communication is crucial. But if it can't happen, then you need to be able to find someone professionally to have that communication with, and not feel like you are, proverbially twisting in the wind.
Right. And you both have to come together and commit to that communication. If one's doing it and the other's not, forget it. It's not going to work.
Oh, yeah. Takes two to cha-cha.
Yes, it does.
So for me, when it comes to therapists, I didn't think our child therapist really did much. No, because when there was signs, there was signs of parental alienation, and she refused to identify it because she didn't want to cause rifts, and it just prolonged things and caused more issues. And in fact, there was major events that happened after that, like major events. And I can't talk about them because they're just, that's how bad it was.
And it just keeps opening a wound, no need to keep opening a wound
Well,
sometimes.
I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it because I think it'll help other fathers or mothers to, how do I navigate through this? And I can't do that because I just don't want to. It's just very gross. How's that?
But that's okay. That's another question for both of you. How do you feel about having children who will have access, possibly? I mean, my son is grown, he's 27, to what you say or what you write publicly, and their response to that. Because I encourage my son to love his father. My son has his absolute own relationship with his father, and that's his relationship with him, and it's between them. And I have stepped completely out of the picture. But there are, John, there are tons of things that we could say, and on, and tons of things that we could share. But not that I'm reticent. It's not going to change anything. And I know that a lot of people reading us and watching us and listening could get something from what we have to say at a relatability. And frankly, hello, that's why we're here. We want
Right.
to entertain and share and hopefully have relatability.
Right.
But where do you draw? Have you considered, do you draw a line? And if you do, where do you draw a line with what you are going to reveal publicly?
That's a really good
Michael?
I don't like.
Michael, you're in the hot seat right now.
I started this thing a few months ago, and I've just been writing what's been on my mind, but I haven't really thought about how my boys would read and write or look at it. It is in the back of my mind. Sometimes I'll be writing a paragraph and I will edit in a way that'll will not expose something I feel uncomfortable about. So I guess it's more about during the editing process. I don't think it globally. I think it's more of like, oh, here's a tree here. I got to edit this tree. But it is a good question because I've been on Substack. I've got 6 followers, which is fine.
That's great. Oh, you haven't been on that long though, have you?
No, but what's kind of nice about that is I'm not responsible to anybody. Maybe expecting something once a week.
Just wait. You are going to grow. Just wait.
Today I got, how dare you?
Oh my God.
But it's a good question. I think it'll evolve. For me, it will evolve if things start to get a little bigger. But yeah, it's a good question. And
do you feel are you self-censoring now because you feel you have a responsibility, or because I feel editing and censoring are two different things. And I hate censorship in general. I find that I edit what I want to say because there are sometimes no reasons to be completely forthright and forthcoming, and to dredge up some, because I've been this has been, I think my son was 10, so 17 years. So that's quite a long time. And some of it has become such wonderful water under the bridge that to go back for any reason other than my perspective, how I feel will help others and I can share. To go back for any other reason is just it's moot for me.
Yeah.
But for both of you, it's much more recent, right? Yes.
Right. Yeah. I find the self-censorship and the editing are they're joined together in a lot of ways.
Hand in glove, yeah.
Innately, I am self-censoring just because I've always been a little bit more introverted and not as willing to express. Like to be on a podcast today is something I never would have done 5 years ago. You know what I mean? And that's another part of the evolution and just not wanting to feel alone. But yeah, I will think more and more about censoring and editing as I move forward, for sure. Because there are things I'm sure my family wouldn't want people to know, and it's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, we're 52% of the population. Is it more now? John, do you have a divorce rate now? I mean, just collectively, not men and women, but
it's over 52%.
Yeah, we're 52% of the population. And I'd love to see if that's 52% in the States, in North America, globally, because I know,
I think it's in the States.
certain cultures, divorce is still really taboo, or you have, mama's in the house with papa, and then papa goes out with the other person, and the family kind of accepts it.
Right. But there's also demographically I think there's a lot more divorce these days for people 50 and older, actually. And you can break it down in that way too. So
a lot of women are finding themselves divorced 50 plus or widowed 50 plus, and they never remarry. They might date, a lot of them don't, but a lot of them never ever remarry. Where in my dad's generation, divorce or death, his generation, the man, the widower, got in a relationship and remarried
Right away, right?
quite quickly. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. And I guess millennials, I'm told, or I read an article about them and their perspective on relationships and all that. They're a lot quicker to make that divorce decision and move on. And there's just like, they're growing up with the internet and the idea of infinite choice and like, oh, I was married for 5 years, I'm gonna get divorced, I'll find someone else, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there's a lot of different things going on with different.
That's an interesting statistic.
Yeah. So I don't know. I find it to be really sad.
I don't know. Maybe do we have millennials watching? Yeah. Well, I mean, millennials right here, but
Yeah, they probably are.
who wants to comment or say anything? We always welcome comments and questions.
Actually, the comments are happening in the Substack, and I've been following that here and there. Some of the things that they're talking about is Shadow was saying, I never put anything out publicly that family I write about can read. They may not prefer it, but it's true. They cannot deny it. Probably why I haven't written about my kids, though. Not really, not for them.
Oh, people can deny it. They can deny even the facts, but you know.
Well, I have an incident of that.
Well,
and then I write under an assumed name. Also, like Shadow says, nothing I write is untrue. Ugly, maybe, but
and
not true.
Who was
so
that?
Now,
Gray.
Gray.
Our new friend Gray.
Yeah. So I didn't write about the divorce or about the kids until they all reached the age of 18. And now I am starting to write about stuff like that. And my reason behind it is that if we don't put it out there, who else is going to, I mean, especially from my perspective, like I'm writing inspirational stories. How can I write inspirational stories if I don't talk about the instances that
inspiration, inspire people?
Right. So how do I not do that? And especially with Earned Not Given, the book that's now published. And if you can get your copy in Amazon.
Shameless plug.
But I want
Earned Not Given. I helped edit.
Awesome.
Yeah, you did.
There it is.
It's right here.
Ta-da.
Right there. But the thing is, in there, I didn't really write in a victimhood or try to blame anybody. Right. It was more of, this is the journey. This is how I'm walking through this. This is what I've learned. This is my experience. This is the people that helped me along the way. And that's really, it was more of an understanding and helping, and people helping me along the way. How did I grow out of that situation? Because if you look through, that's the whole journey behind that. I am writing a little more and more. And then actually in one of the chapters, I talk about postcards, and the postcards getting discarded and they're not going to the children.
Oh dear.
And I never named her. I never called her out. I never said this person. I never said anything. Mostly I referred to her as the ex. And I have several exes.
As do I.
So I, not marriage wise, but in relationship wise,
as do
I have other, so she responded, and my response to that was, so you're owning this?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can speak in generalities about certain circumstances, whether it was someone you were in a relationship with or someone you were married to, and not name names because it's not necessary. And then you have one person who pops up and says, so you're airing our dirty laundry. And I thought that was a really good, how did you know I was talking about you in particular?
Well, the idea behind that is you have to put some substance behind and some truth, like
facts, facts of what happened. Facts.
Yeah. But the thing is that when you read some great writers out there, like a lot of great, like I'm in the 1920s. That's my generation of writers. Authentic, raw, put it out there. Don't really
Hemingway,
care who it hurts.
Yeah. Fitzgerald, F. Scott Fitzgerald,
and
Gertrude Stein,
Orswell is the other one I
Orson
like.
Welles. Yeah, Orson Welles was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they, when you listen to them, or you listen how they write, or you read how they write from a perspective from their point of view, from their pain and so forth. So obviously when I write, that's how I'm looking at it. Now, do I not really, do I color the lines? Absolutely. I don't go to the point where I'm going to pour out, in details of every little thing there is, because I think that could be a little bit
People,
too.
places, dates, names.
That's a liability. That's a
Well, yeah.
liability.
I
I think you're
mean,
crossing. You're
slander,
slandering and stuff
libel.
like
Yep.
that.
Hmm.
And,
And it's your word
and
against someone else's.
yeah,
He said, he
and I
said,
don't want
she
to be
said, she said,
yeah,
she said, he said, he said. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to become a tabloid writer. That's not my goal. My goal is
Thank
to
goodness.
now,
Yeah, no doubt.
but my writings are for my children, because you can understand, I was trying to be erased in their lives, and so I fought to be in their lives. Here's a father wants to be in their lives, and I wasn't allowed to be in their lives.
Mm,
Does that make
mm.
sense? I was being erased. Like, all of a sudden a new man showed up, dad.
Mm.
All of a sudden I can't coach because of the new dad. All these little things that were happening in my relationship with my children was always interference, and basically trying to be erased from their existence, which is physically impossible. That's why my middle child went to Vancouver, more or
Well, and
less,
these are in their
because
formative years too. These weren't since
yes,
they've become of age. I mean, that's what Michael's dealing with right now. Is your children are still in their formative years. They're not of age. This is very
right.
crucial time. I mean, they're teenagers, and that
Yeah.
comes with a whole new
Woo.
set of.
It does
Woo,
indeed.
yeah.
But so I write to give them footsteps to read. Like, I want them, like, as Michael said, his father passed after, after realizing he wanted to talk to him. And, I want some nuggets out there that they can go out and say, what, that was my dad. My dad was a publisher. He self-published. He wrote books about
Mm.
helping others. He was on Substack. He was
Mm.
influential. He was helping others along the way. He was building a community that, I want them to be proud of their father,
Mm.
and not like, and maybe not right away. Obviously, they're still in their early developments of life as adulthood,
Well,
but
there's one thing
later when,
that's really, let me interject this. There's one thing that's super, super important in this scenario, especially, and that is time.
Mm.
yes,
Time. It's amazing that what time can do uh, in terms of this whole subject we're speaking of. Time does have a way of changing people, of changing their perspectives, and with children, maturity. They growing, and your children are they out of their teens, John?
yeah, mine yeah, just
Early
recently one's
20s.
turned
So yeah,
early
what they
20.
were at 14, 15, 20, 25.
Mhm.
Completely
Wait
different.
until they're in their late 20s and hit 30.
Right.
And hopefully, my wish would be that they've gained some perspective. They've gotten some life experience under their belt.
Mhm.
Maybe they've had a breakup or two of their own, and that really is very informative. Very informative.
Yeah, but back to the dating stuff, like you did, after my divorce, I started to date, which was the stupid thing to
Ugh.
do. There was no self reflection, no self
And
whatever.
Michael, you said you're not dating, right?
No, like, man.
No, no. That spoke volume.
But
No.
and and then I ended up with a lady who was, don't get me wrong, she was a good person at the time, but there were a lot of red
Mm.
flags that I noticed. But I wasn't ready for a relationship. Now I am in a relationship, but I was isolated maybe for 4 or 5 years
Mm.
to myself. I mean, that took time to heal. Uh, and there's time sometimes in this relationship, and not to be too open about it. But sometimes I think about the negatives, and I have to pull myself back and say, okay, that's not her.
Mm.
That's not them. Let's give them a chance. And rather than, but I also noticed my relationships with her has been completely different than any other relationship I've had.
That's huge. Yeah.
Same here. Absolutely same here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't be wrong. We have our moments. They're not always perfect.
Nope.
And sometimes
we're human.
Yes. But we get along
Yeah.
quite well. I mean, and really what it comes down to is value, morals,
respect, communication.
Your communication, your perspective in life. Yeah. That really matters when you're really meeting the person. So that's important.
Yeah.
So with that said, Michael, what is what's your next journey? Where are you going from here after this? I mean, I really love your broken toys. That was actually what drew me to your Substack, by the way.
Can you share what inspired you to call your profile that?
Yeah, it was like I did a lot of reading around. Do you know what attachment is and attachment theory, and just how you develop relationships, because based on what your relationship was with your caregiver, basically when you're a toddler. And I felt like there's a lot of us that grew up with the insecure attachment where we just really did not connect with that caregiver. And I just felt like we're presenting as adults, but inside there's a big child going on trying to figure out why aren't things working. And there's something about being a toy and broken and just kind of tramping through life like, oh, I've got this figured out, but I don't know my head from my ass, basically. So
why are all these toys I'm trying to play with broken?
Why am I? Yeah, and I'm the
I
little
love it.
over here, like, So yeah, just that's where it kind of came about. So
that's awesome.
Hopefully I can grow up in G.I. Joe someday, and then be a great toy. But yeah.
Yeah.
I can see a book out of that called Broken Toy.
Oh, that's a book. That's absolutely a book.
Yeah, and that's
if you're so inclined.
Yeah, this whole Substack thing is about, it's a project and it's just exploring all these topics, and a book would be interesting at some point for sure. But
no rush.
Have you written before Substack other than journaling, or did you ever write stories, or did you?
Like I said, I went to grad school for creative writing.
And
kind of stuff.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But I've never published anything or anything like that. So
Get to it.
Well,
for me, I started with writing poetry and being published when I was really young, but that evolved into playwriting, which evolved into music writing, which evolved into writing for television. And you never know where you start. And with your background in creative writing, just the short stories could possibly evolve into longer versions, or lots of short stories, or one complete story. But you've already got the title.
So
you've already got the title.
Is your theme going to be the similar as around broken toys, or it's going to vary from story to story?
Yeah.
And are you doing long format or just
short right now? And most of what I'm doing right now is totally informed by my divorce and all this stuff we're talking about.
Okay.
And it's fiction and nonfiction and memoir and kind of back and forth. So we'll see what happens. But just exploring and trying to get better, every day. Find that joy and that grace we were talking about for sure.
That's it. That's what I was saying. Divorce sucks.
Down with vitriol.
It sucks for everybody. The person who initiated it and the person who had it initiated upon them. I mean, maybe for some people it's easy to just walk away and wash your hands and move forward. But I would be more than willing to bet that there is some sort of retrospective with everyone who ends up in this situation. So yeah,
agreed.
So we can find you on Substack, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and we find John everywhere. John is everywhere. So you're on Instagram. You're on not Bumble.
No,
Rumble.
Marie's not going to be happy with that one. Don't even say that.
Rumble.
He's going to be happy.
Well, at least I didn't say Tinder, or Grindr. It was something,
No, geez. No.
It was Okay.
No, I'm on
Instagram, Twitter.
Twitter,
Okay.
Rumble,
Rumble.
mostly Twitter. I'm mostly on Twitter, Substack, and Instagram. Basically, that's
Got
where I'm
it.
at right now.
Substack.
Yeah,
You're a
and
hero on
TikTok.
Substack. TikTok. Man, I've tried all those. Maybe I don't know. I keep vacillating. Go back. No, I don't. It's
Well, it's
overwhelming. I'm
It is.
sorry to be on every single, and some of them just don't resonate with me. I love Substack. I'm having fun with YouTube. I mean, I'm not really prolific, but maybe this will help. And when I finally start doing my lives, that might help. And it creates so many more assets and so much more material. So you don't have to, like, you're so automated. You can do
I don't know
well.
about that.
It's your
That's a lot of
restream.
manual
Well, your
work.
restream is sending a lot out, and you do have to go back on YouTube and fill
Yeah,
in your tags and do a good
yeah,
description and all of that. But if I had to do all of it manually, that would take up my whole bloody day. I don't want to do that. I want to be having
yeah,
some fun.
That's right. Get outside.
yeah. And play with some
Yeah,
Play with
toys.
some toys. Let's get some unbroken toys and play with them.
that's right.
That's right. So, do we have people to say thanks? Can you scroll through a little bit and say thanks to our
There's
viewers?
Kevin,
Kevin.
Just Shadow. She just went back to lunch.
Thank you, Shadow.
Mhm.
Gary has been
There's Kate, Jenny,
Jenny. Yay.
Gray.
Greg.
Did I say
Did you
Gray?
say Greg? Gray.
Nazar,
Ooh.
Alan, Shane,
Wow.
Gifty Post. Margaret's here.
Margaret, shout out.
Yeah.
Well, for me, this has been great because I like other perspectives and I want to hear um, other perspectives. And I didn't mind being monkey in the middle. So,
Well, I think I really, quite honestly, I think we have to have more dialogues of this because I think our system is broken. Basically, when it comes down to the divorce system, I think it's broken. I think it's not a win-win, meaning it's always a lose-lose or lose-win. I've been, I always thought through the divorce, if I can make a difference in the divorce, that's what I want. And I was thinking, how do I do that? And one of the things I really want to see happen is more of like a fairness. Like everybody comes out zero as close as possible. Everybody owes something if there's an O, and everybody gets treated as an equal. And then the kids, once the financial part of it and the responsibilities are kind of like ironed out. And I don't know how that looks like, but I think it needs to be
complicated.
No, I really think there should be like a judge that sits there and says, okay, your financials this way, your financials this way. Guess what? This is what we're coming down to.
Agreed.
And then the kid, then I think, and this is more of my thought, is that the kids go through not co-parenting, but the parents go through a co-parenting situation and they get evaluated. They'll get looked at.
That happens in
and
California. I had to go through a whole thing like that in California. So it does exist.
And I think it should happen. I think it should happen. No, I'm in PA, so it doesn't happen.
But
Canada too. It's happened in Canada too.
There are different ways of looking at divorce too. Like things are starting to evolve. For example, you can go and find a lawyer, and I did this. We both did this. We each found our own lawyers, and we just had a consultation. And the consultation was, well, this could happen, and everything was awful. Like in worst case scenario, worst case scenario. I was like, dude, this is not working. And I spoke with my ex, and we decided, well, maybe we could try a mediator. So we've been working with a mediator actually. So we pay one person, and they work with us to work everything out. But there's also ideas around collaborative divorce where you find that each get a lawyer, but they're more about figuring out things more equitably. I mean, I think in some ways, I don't know if it's the fringes, but there are different ideas out there helping people manage divorce better. But you have to go up and sort of research and find out what's going on, because the traditional way of, I've never sat in front of a judge. I hopefully will never sit in front of a judge. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There are different ways to do it. And I encourage people to look beyond what is stereotypical, you know what I mean? Because there's so much trauma going on in those courtrooms these days. And Jim, you can attest to that, certainly.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
John can attest
yeah.
to that.
And you're right. If it, don't get me wrong, if you're both level-headed,
Yeah.
yes, I agree with you. You can
Yeah.
have a very amicable
Yeah.
divorce. But when you got one or the other or both, and it's hostile and it's
Yeah.
difficult and challenging and like a win at all cost
Or a brick
mentality,
wall.
you're not gonna like, no one's gonna hold, like, for example, for me to hold her accountable for the financial obligation she had to do, is that I'd spend more
Right.
money to take her to court and say, you're accountable for this, pay for it.
Right.
I didn't have, by the time it was like a lot of money. Like I said, $150,000 in debt, and that's just not including attorney fees. That included like credit cards, things like that. And I finally got it down to where was a lot more manageable. But my point to this whole thing is that that's where I think that's where the next trigger goes, is that if I think they need to go into a class, understand the risk, understand the ramifications, because I don't think it's just myself. Like, you guys are, I mean, obviously, Michael, you're in a very good situation, and I'm very happy for you, and I'm grateful that you're in that situation. There's a lot of people out there that are not in that good situation. For example, in domestic relationships where it's abuse and the person has really gone out, like, how do you control that behavior? How do you fix that behavior? Without supervision of some sort, or some type of class, or some type of mediator that's overseeing that. And you got resources like child services are like, they're dealing with 50,000 cases at a time.
Yep.
You got court systems are filled up with these petty little grievances, I would call them, where,
Yes.
like, he's not obeying the child custody ordinance, or, or she's not doing X, or I'm not, it's like, somehow or another that stuff needs to stop. And it's just not one, or I think the problem, when I look at it, it's the kids that have to pay for it. Like, for example, I was financially constrained on some things, and I didn't have all the stuff that I wanted to give to my kids. So Christmas was lean, vacations were lean. Yes, I was able to fly back to Vancouver, but on a very cheap flight, overnight, made the best of it, layovers. So my point is I think somehow or another there's got to be some type of standard, and that where, when you are planning a divorce, you need to understand the full, like, you got talked to. She got a high profile lawyer, and all of a sudden the guy says, oh, he's a millionaire, let him go after him. Let's go after everything he's got. And that's where the problem becomes.
And everybody needs to know what each other's rights are, and nobody can trample on the other person. I mean, my divorce was mediated, and honestly, I wished we'd gotten, two separate lawyers, because after the mediation, and that was fine, it seemed to be fine, but then I had to go back and get lawyers for visitation. So that was, an extra headache. But my lawyer had the judge's bench book on his desk, and said to me, these are your rights, these are his rights. He steps over the line here, you step over the line there, it's going to be an issue. And I loved that, because just because I'd hired this person, he was not telling me, everything's going to go your way and in your favor, and you have every single right, and this guy has none. He was quite fair, and that worked out better. But today I think mediation, I don't know if it will include the mediation in your instance, wherever you are, will include visitation agreement or order.
All that stuff.
Oh, good. Oh, that's great. Yay.
Yeah. So, man, it's gets heavy. All the stuff you can have to deal with, man. Yeah.
But look how aware we are, and how much more enlightened we are.
Well, I wish, but here's the things. I wish I knew all this stuff when I was going through it. because that would have changed the whole thing. I mean, I remember custody. We were fighting, like, she wanted to see the kids on Christmas at some point,
Mm-hmm.
even though she had the night before or the weekend before. I didn't fight that. I said, you know what? If you want the kids on Christmas, you can have the Christmas. I don't want this, because my attitude was they need to experience Christmas as a whole, as they needed to have that fair wholeness.
Yeah.
Like, but she wanted to interrupt my Christmas. Like, even though I gave her like the year before, here you can have the full Christmas, rather than showing up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, pulling them out of the house and dragging them across the country to another Christmas. I said, no, have the Christmas, enjoy the Christmas. I'll pick them up a few days later, not a problem. And my intention was always been is let the kids have the full experience, let them have it. So rather than fighting her on Christmas, I decided to just make sure I got them the weekend before, and we did Christmas differently. We went to New York. We went to, we started going down to Virginia. We started doing things like a 2-day trip where it didn't cost a lot of money, but that's the kind of stuff that I try to do to help her get over her thing, whatever that looked like. So we wouldn't get into constant battles, and that was this custody was always a battle. It didn't matter what it looked like.
And the kids are the thing. If we can get over our hurt, if we can get over our pain, if we can get over the arguments or whatever transpired,
Right.
these young people, whatever age they are, deserve us to grow up and try to do this to the best of our abilities, no matter whose fault it is. Finger pointing and all that is never going to solve the problem. It is only going to, have another generation of wounded children from divorce instead of, okay, we're not together anymore. Let's not damage these children any more than, maybe if there was arguments in the house or whatever transpired in the house and they heard all of this. Let's not drag them through any of this anymore and give them a chance to move forward and be healthy about it, because that can translate into their future relationships. They're going to bring in the damage, the hurt, what they witnessed, what they heard, what they saw. And because they're so young, they think, well, this is just how it works.
Yeah.
This is how relationships work. People get together, they have us, then they start fighting and they're mad at each other and they hate each other and they leave. And I guess that's just how relationships go.
Yeah. But we can't fix it in one sitting. But
we
the
can
idea
certainly
here is
try.
But I really hope that people got some value added out of this. That's really what the intention was. And if you are going through a divorce and you are kind of going through whatever the case may be, or you're having some domestic relationship issues, or you're
personal
having you're having a breakdown, or you're not thinking out straight, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm sure Michael will be willing to, Kaz. We maybe not have all the answers, but maybe we can help you out in a way that you just we're an ear. And that's really what we're about. And I think at the end of the day, you don't need to walk through this alone.
Right.
There's people here to help you.
At the very least, just to dialogue,
Exactly.
Yeah.
To just experience is so important. Yeah. To listen and to, what I do in the healing arts is would help give you tools for meditation, moving meditation, for, change your thinking, help you know yourself better so you can be yourself better, so you can radiate yourself better to attract better.
So anything else you want to add there, Michael, at the very end here? I mean, we're getting close to the end, so I just want to
thank you guys so much for inviting me. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
it was really wonderful to have you.
And we still haven't talked, but the biggest thing. Okay, Michael, here's the thing I'm going
Okay.
to ask you. This is a big, huge question that needs to be
Uh-huh.
answered
Here we
because
go.
Kaz thinks. Kaz
No, I don't.
thinks.
I know what you're going to say,
Yes,
and
she
I do
does.
not think this.
Yes,
No,
she
I
does.
don't.
Yes, she does.
Paramount thinks this.
She thinks Robert Redford would have been better than Al
That is
Pacino
such a lie.
or Brando in The Godfather.
No,
What do
first
you
off,
think?
Robert Redford was up for the role of Al Pacino's role, and Paramount wanted him. I didn't. I just delivered the info. I didn't say Redford was the best choice. I would be a puddle at Al Pacino's feet. But yeah, he's got to stir it up. I love you for it, John. You just got to stir it up. You got to watch the fur fly.
That's funny.
Okay, but
No,
yeah,
Al
don't
Pacino
you
is
think that?
really for that
Come
role.
on.
Al Pacino.
Yes,
Well, no, what? Al
really
Pacino,
yes,
right?
of
There you go.
course.
Kaz, I told you, you're losing this battle all the
No,
time.
I really think it should have been Ryan O'Neal.
This is a marriage drama.
I think it should have been who I don't know, Edward G. Robinson. No, he would have been too old.
Al Pacino was perfect.
He was perfect, but John's never going to let me live this down. But you know what, John, I love you for it. Keep up the good work.
So, Michael, what was your favorite movie all time?
Wow, there's like a list of favorite movies. I don't think I can pick one.
Right?
Which one have you watched like 15 times?
Oh man. I don't know.
What about your kids? Which one do you watch?
We watch horror films actually. We just watched 28
Really?
Days Later.
Wow.
Oh wow.
My youngest loves horror films. I don't know what it is, but yeah, we watch them. It's fun. It's really fun. Yeah, we're kind of moving up. So there's 28 days later, there's 28 weeks later, and then now there's 28 years later. We're on 28 years. We have to watch that one. So yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
Are they watching
All
We
right.
love Fallout? Are they watching anything like the series Fallout?
No.
Yeah, Fallout is streaming. It takes place in after a nuclear war, and you've
Okay.
got the people that lived underground and procreated and survived underground, and then the people that ended up on the surface. And
Okay.
it's violent. It's a bit horrific,
Okay.
but it's
Check it
really good. It's really
Awesome.
good. Yeah.
Some great suggestions.
John doesn't like horror. He already said.
No,
No.
not at all.
Mm-mm. I'll watch a war movie. Like I'm into war movies, like Hawk Ridge, or I saw Ridge the other
Yeah.
night.
Too close to home.
Private Ryan.
Those are good.
Oh, I could barely made it
Father
through
used to watch
Saving
it.
Private Ryan. I just cried the whole time. It just
Mm.
tears me apart.
Well, I look at it from a historical perspective. Like I love that. I love history.
Yeah, my husband
so
too.
World War II was probably very
Yeah,
a history
yeah.
buff, but I can go back even further in history that I like. So, but battles decide how the countries will survive or they become. So,
Yes.
you have to really when you understand the battles of the war, then you understand why that country lasted such a long time. And
How
so
it was won
it's
or
part of
lost
the-
because of that
Yeah.
particular
Yeah.
battle, right? I get it.
I'll give you a prime example. In 1936, in Madrid, Spain, Franco was a communist at the time, and then there was another fascist part of it. Yeah, so he was communist. But in that war, like the Civil War in the United States, there were they fought on both sides, families, and they came from all over the place, like from Germany, England, you name it. It all came there, and they all fought against either because of an ideology, not because of the civil unrest. It was all based on, and that's where Germany tested a lot of the Blitzkrieg scenario and the fascism and all that. That's where they learned that, and it was very interesting you started to see the dynamics in that war, how that was won and lost, and why people supported each side, because they were testing things for the Great War.
That's another podcast for
It is
sure.
indeed.
Well, that's just it's just silly knowledge I have in the
No,
back
and
of
you're
my head
whetting
that I never get
everyone's
to use.
appetite about it, because there are a lot of people like you. I love history. I absolutely love it, all the way back to Greece and Rome and Egypt and all of that. I was insane about Egyptology I still love it for the longest time, but we have a lot of topics we can talk about.
No doubt.
Yeah.
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, anyways, hey, we went a little
We're going to wrap
sidetrack
up
there.
again.
We get back
We
in.
faked you out. Now we're really wrapping up.
Right on.
Where can they find you there, Michael? Where
Yeah,
can
it's just
everybody
Broken
find you
Toys on a Substack. So yeah, awesome.
Okay. And Kaz, anything for you?
YouTube, Instagram, and predominantly Substack.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. We appreciate your time
Very
today.
much.
And I want to thank Michael for
pleasure.
joining us
Yeah.
and Kaz for being the
Thank
co-host.
you.
And, thank you for listening to another episode. Support us when you can, like, share, and comment when you can.
Follow, subscribe.
And if you have any questions about
all that good stuff.
if you got any questions, if you got any questions, please follow us if you want to follow more. And in the meantime, if there's anything else out there that you want to talk about, feel free to reach out to us.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. We
And remember, what month is this for awareness?
Mental health awareness, and it's domestic violence awareness and intimate partner awareness.
And breast cancer.
Wow. Yeah. It's a big month.
It's a big month. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, we wish you all well. And thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If I can close this.
Bye-bye. Oh, he's back.
I'm still learning this.
Okay. Now it's just you and me. All right.
All right.
3, 2, 1. I have no idea. We're still here. Isn't this?
Oh, end stream. I found it.
Yes.